Now let's move on to the section that's going to make the biggest difference to the actual design of your WordPress powered website, and that is the settings, all the different settings within your child theme. Now this is not within the Genesis section, it's in whatever child theme you have selected. And I'm afraid to say that your settings and your options within your child theme are likely to be very different compared with my options. So I, of course, have gone with Appendipity themes, and specifically the Marin Pro theme from Appendipity Themes. You could have gone for a child theme designed by the Genesis people themselves, Studio Press, or perhaps by another third-party developer, and that's completely fine as well. You need to go for a design that's right for your business, and there are hundreds, possibly even thousands of Genesis child themes out there that you can choose from. I've gone for this one, but what I will do is I'll give you a brief run through of the kind of things that I will be changing, I can be changing myself here, and that will give you a feel for what may be possible within your child theme as well. So I've just selected Appendipity in the side of the menu here as well. So to begin with, it's just a summary of what I can do. But let's just move on to the first main section, which is site-wide style. So if I move my screen across here and scroll down, then it shows you the kind of options that you've got in a really decent child theme. So starting off here, I've got my default color scheme, which is the dark on the top. I've got the light one I can choose for, or also the dark one I can choose as well. And I've got loads of different color schemes as well. But let's just show you what the site looks like at the moment. So that's what the site looks like at the moment. So that's a blog post or a podcast post there. So I'm going to put it back to the light theme and save the changes there. Go back to the site-wide style, and I'm going to go back to the post and refresh it, and it shows you instantly that's the design changed as well. So if that's the kind of color scheme that you may prefer, then, or I may prefer, then I could go for that, of course. Let's have a quick look at the dark scheme as well. So do something similar for that there as well. And go back to the blog post, refresh that, and maybe I possibly didn't save everything actually, or maybe I did it too quickly. So refresh that page. I'm still on the light setting there as well. So I should be on dark. Make sure I've saved everything, and I'm pretty sure I should be on dark now. I'm going to refresh the page, and here we go. So that's the dark setting. So I'm not sure if I like that as much as the original one, to be honest with you. I reckon I'm going to go back to the default one. So default one, it's going straight back to there. Refresh the page just to confirm, and there we go. That's the default one there. So I'm satisfied with that. We've got loads of different color schemes as well. Now these are just default color schemes. Now I could, like for instance, change it to blue here, and it's just refreshing automatically. Actually, I don't even have to save it here. So your child theme may behave slightly differently. So that's going to blue there as well. I don't like that as much. But there are loads of different color options that I can go through that are standard, and I don't even have to stick with the standard ones. There are loads of different bespoke templates that I can actually set up myself by selecting link colors and button colors for everything. So I can really go through just every different color I can imagine here. And while we're here, I'd like to show you another website actually. So this is actually the 6-digit color code. So for the web, every single color has a 6-digit code there, and you can match it, and that's basically the code that goes to actually create the color within the source code of your website. So I'd like to show you another website called colorhexa, colorhexa.com. And if you enter any color here, what it does is it not only gives you all the color codes and the different versions of that color, it also shows you color schemes, matching colors as well, complementary colors. So it will help you come up with different color styles. So if you particularly like one color, then use this website, colorhexa, get the 6-digit code for it, put it in there, and it'll show you some matching colors. It's a wonderful way of coming up with new color schemes. Now, I've had a look at a few of these, and I'm not entirely sure that I like them as much as the original one. I might play with it a little bit more. There are loads of different options here. Obviously, I could play about it with it for a long time. But I think, at least for now, I'm going to stick with the default scheme. So that's a default scheme back there. I quite like the original orange and the hover for the orange play button there as well. So I'm going to keep it at that just now. But back in the site-wide option within the Appendipity control panel, there's lots of other options down here as well. There's options to control the body font, so I could change the font family that I would prefer to use, the heading font style, the background color image. So at the back of the website here, that would probably set an image around the back of all the text here if I wanted to do that. So I could test that and see what it looks like as well. What else could I do? I could add post info. Well, that's enabled at the moment. So essentially, if I publish a post, then it will display the date, the author name, and the comments there as well. I could enable that or disable that. It is enabled by default there. So loads of options there, and that's just in the first section there of the Appendipity section, site-wide style. Next in the list of Appendipity options is the message bar. So what's the message bar? Well, let's scroll down and have a look at this. So it's enabled at the moment, but there's no text in here. And I'll show you what it is actually. If you have a look at the demo version of the Maro Pro theme that I'm using, you'll see at the very top it says, "Welcome to the Maro Pro theme. Click here to buy this theme." So that is the message bar. That's the text that is there in the message bar. And what I've done is I've written something that I can use myself within the message bar section. So let me copy and paste that from just outside the screen here. Go back to the section within the WordPress dashboard, and inside the site-wide message bar editor, I'm just going to copy and paste, "Welcome to Business Book of the Month. Click here to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes." So I just want to do that to have something visually where that would go. Now let's go back to the posts. We will refresh this page, and ta-da! Welcome to Business Book of the Month. Click here to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. Now, I have actually copied and pasted that from Word, and that's a lesson for you because I'm not sure if it's actually kept extra styling in there. I don't particularly want that font. So you'll see the font Welcome to is slightly different to the font here. So let's go back and have a look at, hopefully we can have a look at the code behind here. So in the message bar, the text option there, and look at all this horrible extra stuff that's been copied here from Microsoft Word. So lesson number 1, do not copy and paste directly from Microsoft Word if you are wanting to add something to your WordPress blog. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste it into Notepad instead. Copy and paste it from there. And try again. Save changes, and I'll go back and refresh the page. So go back to the blog post, refresh this page, and here we go. Welcome to Business Book of the Month. Click here to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. Now see the font there is as I would actually want it to be. That matches there. So really pay attention to small things like that. It makes a massive difference. So the other thing that I want to do now is I'm going to add a link in there. Now, of course, I'm just setting the site up at the moment. So because of that, the podcast doesn't exist in iTunes, but hopefully it will do in a month or so. So message bar, here it is. Click here to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. So I'm going to go back to the visual editor here as well. I'm going to highlight this text and copy and paste just the home page in there and add link and save changes there as well. So let's go back to the blog post page and refresh this. And there we go, that's the link that appears there as well. So that's just a link back to the home page. What I will do, but I'm just in the design stage at the moment, is when the podcast exists in iTunes, hopefully at some point in the next month or so, then I will change the link when we're starting to get some visitors to the website. It's not that important at the moment, but I just wanted to show you from a design perspective how to change the message bar. Okay, next up I want to have a look at the site navigation, because of course you'll have noticed that there's no menu or anything like that at the top of the site here. You have a look at the demo site, the Marin Pro site, and it's got all this lovely menu section up here. So let's go back to the settings in here as well. Now within the appendipity settings, all I can do here is change the color. So I could easily do that if I wanted to do that, but if I'm not going to change the color of the main font and then the main play button being going away from orange, then I'm probably going to keep this the same, or at least I'd keep this the same for a while. And this is of course where I could use the color picker. Remember the color hex picker that I showed you in the last video. So what we could perhaps play on doing is by introducing other colors into the section here. Maybe I could find a nice green that works nice for the navigation menu, but keep the orange for the play button. Just show you that at the bottom of the screen, and maybe that might work quite nicely and just differentiate my site just a little bit differently. But to be honest with you, by the time I get all my own images in here, now I'm going to replace this actually with my own logo. So instead of actually having my logo at the top, I reckon I'm going to have a logo here as well, and then I have pictures of people taking part here as well. So by the time I have that, and it's different, significantly different obviously to the demo theme, then that's going to differentiate the site, I think, enough. You don't want to be necessarily changing it completely from the existing template that you get. But anyway, the menu system. So what I can do within here is change the color. I don't want to do that at the moment, but what I do want to do is show you where to add the menu. That's very important. So what you need to do is hover over Appearance and then click on Menus. And in this section here, you'll see this is where you control your menus of your WordPress powered website. So you see there's no web menu set up at the moment, so I'm just going to call this one Primary. And I'm going to select the Create Button link here on the right hand side. Now, as you can see, I've got some additional options here now as well. It says Auto Add Pages. I'm not going to tick this at the moment. I just want to manually select the pages that are added to the menu. But you see it also says Theme Locations. So primary navigation menu and secondary navigation menu. Now, I already use one of the appendipity themes for my digital marketing radio podcast. So I know that the primary navigation menu is the one that I'm talking about here. The secondary navigation menu is actually the one that's used for the social icons. We'll get onto that in a bit, but let's click on the primary navigation menu. That's what we want to associate the primary menu with. So I'm going to do that and then save menu. And then once we've done that, then we can start to think of adding pages to it. So I don't have any pages that I've created within WordPress so far. If I want to create a page, all you do is you go to Page and add new here as well. However, as there's a sample page already created, I'm just going to add that to the menu just to show you what it would look like there as well. And you can also change the navigation label, but you can also drag and drop pages into sub parts of a menu. So in other words, it can be either menu sections by themselves, or it can be part of an existing section of a menu. So I'll show you what I mean within Marin Pro. So obviously you've got templates, but the archive page isn't a section by itself. It's a page within there. So templates, layouts, podcast shows, these are separate pages, but there are sub pages within these pages, and that's how the menu structure works here. So back to businessbookofthemonth.com. Let's save the menu here and go and have a quick look at what it actually looks like on the site. Back to the site, refresh this page, and there we go. We've got a sample page in there as well. And if you see, you actually click on the page, then this highlights orange. So it highlights orange when you're actually on the page itself. So I'm going to click on the back button, go back to there. Obviously the menu system will look a lot better when there are more pages in there, but that shows you exactly how to go about setting up your menu system within this child theme. Maybe slightly different, of course, for your child theme, and whatever child theme you're using, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, I'm afraid. Next up, you're going to want to personalize the header section of your website. Now, this is something that you want to take a decent amount of time over, because the header section obviously is at the top of every single page virtually of your website, just depending on your styles. So that's something that people are going to see first when they hit your website. So what have we got down here? So appendipity header option, and then we've got the show primary default header that's enabled, and we've also got some option here about uploading an image here as well, and at the bottom here we've got a custom header section. So let's explore that. So first of all, if I disable that and click on the save changes on the right hand side there, and then go up to the blog and refresh it, you can see that the actual homepage heading of Business Book of the Month and the description underneath that just doesn't appear whatsoever. So that's why I said in a video quite some time ago that the actual title tag that you have underneath your main heading may not necessarily appear depending on the style of your site. So if you wanted to do something completely personalized here, then you would use the custom header section and enable that, and you see the options here are almost limitless. You can actually design a header. It's suggesting an image size of up to that width, 1152 pixels there for the width of the site there. Now, if you are designing your own bespoke heading template, then please bear in mind responsive design. So test it in tablets, test it in mobile devices, make sure just everything looks good. Generally, if you've selected a child theme yourself, you've selected it because you like the core design and look and feel of it, so you're probably unlikely to want to do that, and you'll probably use the primary default header. But what you may want to do is add your own logo. For of course within here, within the site at the moment, there's no real logo in there. In fact, if I refresh the page, then the top section still isn't enabled. So that's enabled there. So I need to click on the Save Changes button there, and hopefully the header section will then appear if I refresh the page in the blog, and indeed it does. So that's back to Business Book of the Month and the description underneath here. Okay, so logo. So I may want the logo to appear within here, or if you recall the actual home section of your website, you can feature, if you recall the Marin Pro demo, you can feature your logo here as well. That's probably what I'm going to go for personally. I like the idea of having text up here. If you know SEO, then that's an H1 heading, this is an H2 heading, so that's a really great starting point when it comes to telling search engines what your page and your site is about. But it also helps readers as well, and it helps the site load quickly as well. However, I completely get it that some businesses want a logo on the top here instead. So if that's the case, then for this particular child theme, you would upload your logo. Now, I just put in one image here myself personally, so you can upload any logo you want. Now, trust me, this is going to look bad because it's not a logo that's designed for the site, really. It's an image, digital marketing radio, that I use on another site. But anyway, let's have a look at the home page just to see what it looks like with that logo in there. So refresh the page and you'll see in there. So it's increased quite a bit in size. If I scroll over it goes slightly darker grey, which is nice. So what you would want in a logo is to actually make it the same color as your background, but ideally probably make the background of the logo transparent. Not make it too big either. You'd probably want it fairly wide, but not too high. And you'd also want to make sure that it's tested again to make sure that it looks good on a mobile device and a tablet device as well as your website. However, bear in mind with what I said about it replacing your heading, your text heading for search engines, so it might not be quite as search engine friendly. But if you want to add a logo in there, take time to get the background right, make it transparent, get all the spacing absolutely spot on, and get it tested for every single scenario. So at the moment I'm going to remove this logo here because I don't particularly want a logo on my site. But if you want a logo on your site, you've probably got the option there within your child theme to install your logo. So that's my site back, as it were. But hopefully if you do want a logo, you know what you're doing about it now. Also here I want to mention the homepage section within the Appendipity child theme that I'm using. And this is a similar option to what I have within Genesis as well. So within Genesis, I can actually change the look and feel of my blog pages, my styling of that. But this changes the look and feel of the home page of my child theme. So it may or may not override what's happening within Genesis. So this is where you've got to test things as well and just be clever about being aware of what is impacting your design of your WordPress site. But have a look here. You can actually choose from full width, the sidebar on the left-hand side or the sidebar on the right-hand side there. Generally, people find they're quite used to the sidebar at the right-hand side nowadays. The reason why it ended up being like that is from a search engine optimization perspective. Search engines tend to crawl the top and the left-hand side of stuff before going down to the right-hand side of stuff, and people wanted the core content to be higher up within the source code. So that's kind of the background to why sites were designed like that. But people are used to that now. So from a usability perspective, you don't want to go too far away from norms. So I would probably just stick with that. Now I'm going to want to do a couple of more things within the header section of the home page. I'm not that happy actually with the color of the font here. I think this is just a little bit too dark, so I'm going to want to make that lighter. And also the strapline here is a bit meh. I want to improve the quality of that there as well. Also having a look at the Marin Pro demo, it has got an embed of a latest episode here. I don't really like that so much, I don't think. So I'm not going to include that, I reckon, because it obviously brings in an extra gap here as well. If you have a look at my version of the actual theme, the child theme, it doesn't have that gap there at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just probably make this longer, as I have a longer phrase, improve the font color so it becomes slightly lighter, so it's slightly more visible. And then I'm going to try and incorporate this section here, so it features the guest hosts. So let's first of all have a look at changing the actual wording here. So if we go back into, now this isn't in Appendipity, this is actually back within the regular settings and general in WordPress here. So I've written a slightly different strap line that I've got in Notepad just off the screen here. So that's the tagline here. So I'm going to copy and paste it into there and scroll down to the very bottom and click Save Changes. And then we will go back to the site and refresh that to see if that's made a difference. So refreshing the site, and there we go. We can see the strap lines, a decent length there. So I quite like this phrase, a monthly podcast discussing the best business books with David Bain, Mark Asquith, Colin Gray and Chris Marr. I think that summarizes what it's about. It's not so long. I'll have to check it out on tablets and smartphones just to make sure it doesn't look too bad there on those kind of devices. But the next thing I want to do is change the color just to make it slightly lighter. So here I need to go back into Appendipity actually, and I was in the header section, so that's correct. So the header section of that. So if I scroll down here, I can see site description text color, and that's what I want to change. So you get a feel for the different colors there. So this is the color at the moment. So it's 55555. So I'm going to actually change it to 9s. So let's do that, and then click the Save Changes button at the bottom there. So just check that the Save Changes have gone through. I think they have gone through. So let's refresh the blog homepage and have a look at the color of the tagline here when we refresh the page. There we go. Look at that. And I think that reads a lot better. It's still not glaring. You wouldn't want to make it completely white, but it looks a lot more descriptive and nicer there. So I'm much, much happier with that. And if you see, obviously the strapline's quite long there, so it means that having a player here wouldn't really fit in quite so well. So excellent. Happy with that. Got to stick with that there. Now, while I actually just see this, the text at the top here, I want to change this Business Book of the Month to italic, actually. So I'm going to go back into Appendipity options here, and that was in message bar. So scroll down to the text here, just hover over Business Book of the Month, because it's a bit more of a brand name, Business Book of the Month. Even though it's descriptive, it's the brand of the site there. So click Save there, done that, go back to the site, refresh the page, and yeah, I think I prefer that. I may keep that, I may not. I'm not sure. Okay, welcome to Business of the Month. Click here to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. I will get the navigation menu sorted when I get more pages in there. That will take a while to build across the site, so I'm not going to do that just now, but you know what you're doing with that. So I've got the description there I'm quite happy with there as well. So what I want to introduce next is this section to feature the most popular guests on your podcast. So to do that, I would need to go to Feature Guest here within Appendipity and turn on, first of all, the Feature Guest area. And let's keep everything by default at the moment and just go on to artwork. Now, I'm going to have some artwork designed for the podcast. So I don't have artwork at the moment. I've just made a very, very, very basic logo. So I'm going to upload that just now. Open. So I'm uploading that just now. So you see how basic the logo is there as well. But it's just to demonstrate that something like that will look okay. So I can link to something, I can name it something. Let's just put some test text in there as well, just to see what it looks like. And we'll click Save Changes at the bottom there, and then go back to the site. Okay, we'll refresh the site now. So it's not featuring that. So I've got to go back to the one error was found here. So I've got to see what the error was found there. You must provide a valid URL. Okay, I haven't got a valid URL. So let's copy and paste Business Book of the Month and save changes, see if that makes a difference. Go back to the site there as well. If things don't work for you, there is generally reasons within the theme, so it's just logical. You go back and you see what's happened and you refresh the page there as well. So there we go. That's the section up there. It's not looking as beautiful as it did here, so I will work at it a bit and it will look as good as this demo version. Okay, I've come back to the featured guest section of the Appendipity theme, and I found this cool little number here where you can actually put up and down. And if you have it basically at the top, I'll show you what happens. Save changes, and we'll go back to the site, Business Book of the Month, and refresh it. And that actually makes the image round there. And if you go back to the settings there again, now I had it halfway, which is 25, and 25, we will save the changes at the bottom there, and go back to the site again, and refresh that, and that gives us rounded corners basically. So that setting is what gives us the rounded image. So if you go back to the Marin Pro theme, that's what they use to actually get the rounded image there. I quite like the rounded corners. Might keep it at that, but what I'm going to do now is add different guests. So the four of us are going to be presenting the show. So I have saved 4 different images of all of us. If you make sure that you load images in the correct size generally when you've got anything to upload, because you need to try and keep your web pages loading as fast as possible. And if you keep your images the right size and not too big, then that's going to be a massive bit behind ensuring that your web page loads fairly quickly. Okay, so get the images right here. So I'm going to upload the files here. So I'm going to have to browse to a new folder, which is Business Book of the Month with the BBOTM. So we'll browse towards that. And that's it open. Okay, so we've got the 4 images here. So I'm going to first put myself in there. So I wouldn't worry too much in this instance about adding to here. I might just add my name as the alt text, and that way I can just copy and paste across to the settings within Appendipity themes. So I'll do that and click select there at the bottom, and here we go. So that's the image there selected. So the guest one link and the name is what I have to add now here as well. So what I'll do is I'll just add the name, and I'm just going to actually keep the link the same as the previous logo. So let's do the link as that, because I get the feeling that it'll say as it did with the previous image that a link is required. So in the future I'll come back to amend this. I might have a page about myself on this site that I can link to, or I might have a podcast episode about myself as well. So click the save the changes here as well. Now, just before we do the rest of the guests, let's have a look at the site to see if that has changed. So refresh the page, and indeed it has. So there we go, that, and it links to the home page as well. So that's starting to look quite nice there. So let's go back and do that for the other 3 guests on the show. So scroll down this page here and get to the next guest, which is featured guest 2, which is of course Mark Asquith. So we will load the file for that there, just off the screen there slightly. So I'll just show you what I'm doing. And let's add the alt text as Mark Asquith, and copy and paste it as I did previously. Click select there at the bottom, copy and paste Mark Asquith, or sorry, paste Mark Asquith into the name, and we will just use the same link as before. And there we go. And before I add the other guests, I just want to save the changes there just to make sure that that is saved. But I will carry on adding the next one, which I might as well do it in the same order as listed here. So Colin and then Chris. So here we are. So what we need to do is upload a file. So upload Colin next. And we will write Colin Gray in the alt text. Copy and paste his name and click select at the bottom there. Add his name into the guest name here. Just use the homepage link here as well. Click Save Changes at the bottom, then all we have to do is just do the one more guest after that, which is Chris Marr. So we'll scroll down again, get to featured guest number 4, select Chris's image, in fact have to upload it, and select Chris, open that, and we will add Chris as the alt text, and select at the bottom as I did before, add him in the name, and then just use the link as used in previous episodes. Again, I will change this link, probably have a page about Chris on the site, maybe an episode about Chris, whatever it is, it's going to be a more relevant link than the existing link. Save changes, and that's the changes saved there. So I'm going to go back to the home page, refresh that, and there we go. That's starting to look pretty cool. Now, Colin Gray, the only thing that I'm not quite so satisfied about that image is it's got a white background. Now, the actual original image had a grey background, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play about with that and possibly make the background slightly more grey, just so that there is that shape around Colin, just to make it like the rest. And I might see if I can get a shot of Colin just zoomed in slightly, so his face is slightly larger like the rest of us. Now, the only other thing to consider is the fact that there's 4 guests in there, and of course the default version of the theme has 5 in there. I think 4 looks okay, and it's just a case of figuring out for yourself what looks best. But I'm pretty sure that probably looks okay. I could add another in there, but it's not absolutely essential to do. If I added another in there, obviously there's not another guest host at the moment, so I would probably do an image with a silhouette of someone and saying something like "you," so to encourage people to actually interact on it. So there are ways of getting round a rigid design, and obviously because you choose a design, because you choose a child theme, there are a few elements that you're kind of stuck with, unless you go for the completely custom CSS version of it. And I reckon that if you're looking to use a theme that's pre-existing, you're probably not wanting to customize it too much. So but it looks fairly good. I'm fairly happy with that, so let's stick with that at the moment. Next, we're going to have a look at the audio player option. So again, in Appendipity, audio players there in the menu. And just scrolling down here, we can see that the main page audio player is disabled. So let's enable that just now, save the changes, and see what that actually looks like on the website. So going back to the main website here, I'm going to open it up here. There we go. And we can actually see the audio player at the bottom of this page. So if I scroll down here, so that looks pretty cool having it in there. But again, having a look at the actual Marin Pro demo, we can see an opt-in form there as well. And I quite fancy that as well. So I'm not too worried about the text here, because the text will obviously be taken from the blog post. So it is what it is at the moment. No problem at all. It looks better here because it's taking the first paragraph or so of text from the post content. But how do we get this opt-in form here to the right-hand side? Well, it's not in this section of the menu. So what I will actually have to do is go down to the one below, which is called Opt-in Widgets. And I'm with Aweber. So I'm going to select Aweber there, make sure it's selected there, save changes there. So this particular theme supports GetResponse, Aweber, iContact, and MailChimp. So that's one of the reasons why it's probably fairly good to go for one of the really big email providers at the moment. So that is that selected there, but there's no area within this section for you to choose where the form actually goes. So what we're going to have to do is actually go into Appearance and Widgets. So this is in the main WordPress menu, and then you see this option here called Appendipity Opt-in. So what we're wanting to do is have it within the player widget area. So homepage player widget area, so that's about right. So let's click Add Widget. Now call to action here, we can add some text in here for a bit, but I'm just going to scroll and add some stuff here. We can add an ebook image there as well. And seeing where it says Aweber list name and thank you URL. These are really important. Obviously, when you log into your Aweber account, then within your account, you'll set up different email lists. This is beyond the remit of this course, obviously, but just to give you an overview, make sure you select the right list name. So it'll be the same roughly for each email provider. It's fairly logical. Thank you page URL is where someone goes once they actually subscribe to you. So it could be some kind of download link where they get a free ebook, or it could just be a thanks for subscribing page. So I'm just going to save that at the moment. We've got lots of nice options there to save. So that's really good. So we will refresh this page and see what happens. And there we go. We get the text, the idiotic text that I've put there that we'll have to obviously change, but I just wanted to see what it looked like roughly. We've got the episode there as well. Let's go back to the Marin Pro. So Marin Pro just had the text there. We can put an image in there, but bear in mind if we do that, then there's going to be a fair amount of blank space there at the bottom. So I might design it in a way that it doesn't have the bullets there. Maybe it just has the headline, 1 or 2 lines of text, and then goes straight to the form. That way it doesn't have excess space there. And then probably what I'll do with the content is actually have content underneath here. So have a page written here, and then in the widget area at the bottom here, I'll probably maybe have some kind of iTunes subscription option to begin with, and then perhaps another opportunity to opt in after that. So, but when that shows you how to get the player in there, how to get the subscription form in there as well. And you see, it's really actually starting to come together. It's looking quite similar to the original Marin Pro demo now. But finally, in this video, I'd like to give a very brief mention to widgets. So widgets is also something that you need to explore yourself as well. So that's in Appearance, Widgets, and your widget section might appear slightly differently. Now this on the right hand side are the various sections of your blog or your WordPress powered website, whatever you want to call it. So after, post, footer, opt-in, and different footer menus. But just because it says footer 1, it could actually be in the sidebar. So it depends on your theme. I'm not entirely sure where these menus actually are. See, this says primary sidebar widget area. Apparently there's a widget called primary sidebar widget area. So let's see if there's primary sidebar widget area. There we go. So it is actually here that I'm aiming for. So if I want to add more widgets to this area, and there are loads of different widgets that are pre-installed, and there are also loads of widgets that you can add as well yourself. So for instance, if I wanted to add a calendar to this area here, and give it a title, I'm just going to put some text in there just to show you where the title would actually appear. Click Save, and then we'll go back to the site and refresh that page, and hopefully, there we go, that's the calendar down there in the primary sidebar area. So what you can do is, within here, is you can actually have nice additional sidebar widgets, of course, or you can have custom HTML or text in there. This widget is really useful, called text. So if you add it to your primary sidebar, you just have to drag and drop there, and then add whatever content you want. That's the title, that's the content. Let's click Save at the bottom there. So make sure everything's saved. Go back to the site, refresh the site. Let's scroll down, and then there we go. There's the text at the bottom right-hand side. That's the custom text that I added. Now it's custom text or HTML. So any code that you want, any HTML code that you want, can be included there as separate widgets. And that's, of course, how the original demo added their images here. So they've got all the images here. There'll be short codes here for iTunes and SoundCloud there. That'll be fairly easy to get, and within the actual instructions of whatever child theme you happen to have. So there's no point in going into it here, because your child theme that you're using will probably be slightly different, and it's fairly easy to use. But the most important thing to make you aware of is of the existence of these widgets, and there are different places. Some themes may have multiple sections with different like footers and sidebars where you can drag and drop widgets, and you can also add widgets. Now some widgets will appear here based upon the plugins that you've installed. So if you search plugins, or you search for widgets online, WordPress widgets, you can find additional functionality you can install into your blog and drag and drop into these sections. So that's something for you to play about with, but just be aware of the fact that additional code, will add additional time, sometimes loading time into your site. So only add additional functionality if it makes your site looks a lot better and performs a lot better for your users. Okay, let's now just take a look at the few remaining options within the Appendipity menu system. Now, first of all, we've got the social buttons. So if we see at the moment, by default, we've got all the social buttons on. So in terms of what that looks like on the site, we've got all the social buttons at the bottom of a post, but also if you click on the button next to the player, you see the different social buttons. So it probably depends on your type of business as to what social button you want to actually keep. You might want to keep them all, but generally, depending on your type of business, you're not going to have clientele maybe visiting your site that is likely to share your site in all these kind of places. So you want to make your site as minimalist and as relevant as possible to your target audience. So for a business audience, I reckon I'm going to take off StumbleUpon and take off Pinterest as well. I could have Google+, although the jury's out as to how many people actually use it now. But let's try to see what it looks like using Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. As you see, I've also added my Twitter username there as well, where someone actually shares it automatically via @DavidBain will be added to it. Now, I don't think at this stage I'm going to have a Business Book of the Month Twitter account separately, because generally Twitter is much easier to be interactive when you're tweeting as yourself rather than actually as a brand, but we'll see what the future holds. I'm not too sure. So let's keep those 4 networks at the moment, click Save Changes, and then we'll check out the site to see what that looks like. So go back to the home page, refresh that, and yeah, that looks pretty cool. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm still not sure about Google+. I'm in two minds about that one there. It kind of looks good with the 3 blue ones there, I think. I mean, it might even be a design thing there that I'm not entirely sure with. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take that off just now, and I could possibly put it back again in the future. So let's see what it looks like without the Google Plus there. Click Save there, go back to the home page and refresh this page, and there we go. Now, I think I like that from a design perspective. Now, that's not necessarily the best thing to be doing. You need to be thinking what your target audience need as well as what looks best from a design perspective. But I'm going to keep those 3 networks at the moment, and we'll probably do a little survey perhaps with the people that visit the site, see what they prefer as well. Okay, moving further down here, you've got previous and next posts at the bottom of posts. I kind of quite like having that from an SEO perspective as well. Lots of options with regards to colors there, but we'll have that on and we'll click Save Changes. I can always amend that, but I'll be interested to see what that looks like for this particular theme. That's the lovely thing about these things. It's so easy to switch things on and off, and it's not really going to be possible to break your site as long as if you change things within the proper system. So the actual controls within the child theme or the main theme that you've got set up. Now, I'm going to do a similar thing here for related posts. Again, I quite like that from an SEO perspective. Lots of options here, but default is generally going to be the best. You could have it before the comments, after the post, after the comments. It's lovely to have these options here. Let's put it on as default to begin with. Check to see what it looks like, and then we can revisit that again in the future. Now, because I've only got the one default hello world post just now, we're not going to really see it, so there's no point in having a look at it just now. The footer, so there's lots of options with regards to footer background, widgets. This is all color styles. And then the last 3 options here you probably need. You've got the custom CSS, which is only something that you'll tend to use if you're a coder and you really know what you're doing there. So if you're not, don't worry too much about it. If there's something that you want to accomplish from a design perspective, and for whatever reason you can't do it within the theme, then custom CSS will allow you to do that. So you can perhaps ask another coder or a coder to do this on your behalf. But don't play about with this area if you're not comfortable with what you're doing. Import and export, well, that's about if you want to take your settings from this particular WordPress installation to another installation. So unlikely just now, but that's where to do it if you do want to do that. And then just finally theme information. That's just background information about the theme itself. So you don't generally need to do that. However, one other thing that you may have noticed is at the very bottom of the site, it says copyright and then a link back to the theme on the Genesis Framework WordPress logout. And you probably don't want, if it's your own site, to be referencing and linking back to lots of other places, because that's obviously an additional exit point for traffic from your site. So that's something really to think about, and you can't control that within the normal child theme settings. So what you need to do actually is add a plugin, a Genesis plugin to do that. And that's one area that we haven't covered so far. It's plugins, and plugins can be very, very valuable indeed for WordPress. So at the next stage, we're going to have a look at plugins. We're going to begin with having a look at how to actually change the footer section of your site using a plugin, but also a few other core plugins that you probably should be using as well.